When we invest a lot of time and money into something, it can feel difficult to handle a lack of motivation or interest in a hobby. But we all go through these periods in our lives when something which was once enjoyable doesn't really feel that interesting to us anymore, and where we once had a lot of energy and passion and motivation, we don't even feel like turning on our music gear anymore. And I know that this can be hard to deal with. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about a bunch of reasons why we might be losing interest in our synthesizers and music production hobby, and what to do about it, because that's the most important part. Is not just recognizing that something's going on, it's recognizing that we gotta do something about it. And if you just happen to click this video here and you have no idea who I am, well, I'm Bo. I make videos here on YouTube about synths and music tech. This is not what I had intended, but let's run with it. But I also have a background as a clinical licensed psychotherapist with over 10 years of experience, and also 10 years of experience as a university teacher. And now and then I make these advice videos in the hopes that they will be helpful in some way. So let me know in the comments if they are. One common reason why people lose interest in their synths is that they have too much else going on in their life. Think of your total energy as a pie, and every single thing you invest energy into as a slice of that pie. And ask yourself, how big is the slice of energy for music and synths in your life? And this is a very important approach, because when it's a personal project, a hobby of some kind, something that we should have a lot of energy for, we tend to overemphasize our power over that hobby. But here's the thing that is so easy to overlook. The world is filled with real obstacles. And we all have to accept that it's not just about mindset, it's about realizing that we have a finite amount of resources in terms of time, energy, money, and so on. And to use these resources in the best way we can, you should prioritize and make room for your hobby. And that can be difficult if you have a very busy life. So what should you actually do? Well, draw a circle and try to divide it into slices, where the size of the slices represent how much energy they take up. Secondly, reflect on which slices take up too much energy in your life, making all of those synth memes, for example. Maybe that's a slice you should cut down on. So joking aside, try and reflect on which of the slices can you actually take energy from and put into the synth hobby. It's not easy, anything meaningful rarely is, but if you start making small changes to where you invest your energy, you can actually make progress. This is easily overlooked. Many of us synth nerds are actually lonely. Synths are not intrinsically a social hobby where it's easy to meet other fellow nerds. I mean, a lot of us are just in our basements, in dungeons, synth studios, and bent over our synths tweaking some knobs. You know, it's not very social. So what to do? Well, what did I do? Because honestly, I was quite lonely here in my studio. So last year I actually started a local synth meetup. We meet once every month, and it was such a nice experience, and it wasn't that difficult. I reached out to a few people that I knew locally that shared my synth interest, and we found a suitable place to meet, and yeah, that's how it started. And if you want to start a synth meetup, just keep it simple. We have a jamming table where people can lawlessly jam together. We have a couple of small studio monitors hooked up. We have a little mixer and one of those MIDI through boxes, keeping everything synced up, and then people just jam away and have fun. And we've also had people do presentations of their music and synth-related projects. And I think that the key here is to make it inclusive and not pretentious, because when things get pretentious, too artsy or whatever, it tends to get less inclusive. So it's not about finding an audience for your art, it's about sharing a passion for synths and music with your peers, and to drink coffee, like a lot of coffee. And if you happen to live in the south of Sweden, check out our local synth group, Halmstad Synthsällskap, on Facebook. I'll link it in the description. It's just a group for people who actually will attend the meetups, so don't go and join it unless you live in Sweden or maybe Norway or Denmark. Another reason you might be losing interest is that you have invested a lot of money and time into the wrong tools for the job. Take synths, for example. They are best for their immediacy and the joy of playing them and sculpting sound and getting lost in the moment without a particular goal in mind. Maybe you record the jams, maybe you don't. So if what you actually want to do is finish your music and release it, then you definitely should look at a DAW, something like Logic or FL Studio or Bitwig or Ableton Live, for example, just to mention a few. A DAW is a tool for producing actual songs and finishing them with a clear beginning, middle, and end. And even if you love hardware, you can do a hybrid setup that is both immediate and fun, but also have the benefits of a DAW. Use a push 2 or 3 and Ableton Live, for example. Maybe FL Studio with one of those dedicated MIDI controllers, or maybe a Machina Plus or MPC, because they also have software counterparts, basically slimmed down DAWs. But most importantly, make sure that you don't hold on to gear that doesn't work for you. Try and make sure that what you want to do and the tools that you have actually align. And it can be also the other way around. This was where I was at. I was actually working with a DAW a lot. I was working in Cubase for many, many years. And then I got a Machina and I started to realize how much I missed having hardware at my fingertips and how I really didn't like sitting by the computer and clicking with the mouse. And then I took the step from the Machina into the hardware realm where I was super hooked on the whole DAWless thing. Not because it's the most practical or it's the easiest way to make finished songs, but because I got lost in the moment and I just enjoyed that so much. So it goes both ways. It's about aligning the tools with what you want to do. Another reason why you're losing interest might be that you bought too much too fast. And that's okay. We've all been there. You found a new hobby. It feels super fun at the start and you buy a bit too much gear too fast and you don't know what to do with it. And let me just say once and for all that there's no point in feeling guilty about it. It's your money, it's your time, and it's your energy. And it's kind of cool that you can dive into something and really go into something. Now, that being said, let's talk about the saying, less is more. You know, slimming down your setup is always better. Now, this isn't always the case. It's more of a thing, a truism that people say online. But it's true to a certain extent. If your skill and knowledge level isn't high enough, having too much gear will feel overwhelming. And this is a classic control versus challenge problem. If the challenge is too great, we will easily feel overwhelmed because it causes a lot of stress because we don't have the required control versus the challenge to overcome it. And that's basically it. So it's not about having a small setup or a medium setup or a big setup. I mean, these are all relative terms to where you are in your creative process. And if this applies to you, it's time to take a step back and figure out where to go next. Maybe sell some stuff, or perhaps just put some stuff away and simplify the process. Because if things feel overwhelming, make your world smaller, more controllable, and you will start making progress again. Another important thing to talk about is unrealistic expectations. You thought that the synths would fix something that buying stuff can't. And in this society that we live in, it's easy to fall into this trap of thinking that a new toy will make our life a lot better. Sometimes it does. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be the case that buying a new thing makes zero difference in your life. I bought a new smoker for my backyard and It absolutely makes a difference in my life. It's a lot of fun smoking meats, but it doesn't necessarily have to improve your life. So it has to be tied to something which is important to us, to something that is essential to us in a way. So if we think that another synth will solve my lack of motivation, or another URAC module will help me finish that album, I think that we are engaging in a bit of magical thinking. So what should you do about this? Well, key is to be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Buy things because you want to buy something. That's fine. And be realistic about what it does for you. It's okay to say, I want this because I just want this thing. I mean, that's fine. We do that all the time. That's fine. Be realistic about what it does for you and what it doesn't do for you and what it doesn't solve. And here comes the important part. Separate the buying from what you want to achieve in your life, because it doesn't have that much to do with the actual tools you use. So separate the two things in your mind. And remember my analogy with smoking meats. Like 2 years ago, I started exploring doing like ribs, for example, on my, I think it's called a kettle grill or something. I had this super cheap basic one for like $50. It was like super bad, like almost falling apart. And I was using it pretty successfully actually. And I told myself, if I can use this for like a year or something successfully, then I've learned enough to move up to a better one. And after learning how to maintain fire in this super cheap grill and doing a decent rack of ribs, I moved up to something a little bit more expensive. And did the purchase actually help me? Yeah, sure. Is the meat a lot better? No, not necessarily, because it was more about skill than the tools. But is the smoker better? Yeah, absolutely. It's easier to maintain the heat in it, and it's simpler to use and so on. There's a lot of benefits that just come from it being a better product, essentially. So don't buy things thinking it will help you figuring out what you want to do. Buy things once you have figured out what you want to do. Another important thing to talk about is that it's easy to lose sight of why you got into the hobby in the first place. I see this a lot. You started because it was fun to sit down and just enjoy a bit of music making, playing your synths, but as time went on, you started feeling like it should amount to something more. And here you have a choice. Ask yourself, do you want to keep enjoying making music for music's own sake and the joy it brings you, or do you want to achieve something beyond that? And what would that be? Because here's the thing, as our synth studios grow, it's easy that our expectations of ourselves and what we should be doing grow with the size of the studio. But here's the thing, whether you have 1 or 20 synths, it doesn't really matter. You and only you can decide what's important to you, and whether it's jamming, posting synth memes, or releasing music, it's all up to you. Regardless of what the internet tells you, there is no right or wrong way to enjoy the things you have invested in. And if you're struggling with this, either go back to the original reason why you started in the first place, or if that doesn't work for you, you have to move forward. Don't expect what worked yesterday to work for you now. For every day we live, we grow, and we don't stay the same, and you might need something new in your life. Try and explore synths and music in a way that you haven't. As you might have noticed by now, there's a red thread here throughout this video. A lot of issues we face relate to lacking a valued goal. Having goals in life that we actually value is very important to experiencing motivation. But not all goals are created equal. Doing something to get a carrot is different from doing something because it relates to something we deeply value. Becoming a doctor, for example, because our parents rewarded us or shamed us, is different from becoming a doctor because we deeply want to help people. So ask yourself, what is it you want to achieve? What is your deep desire? Write down, preferably on a piece of paper, commit to the paper, the 3 most important things you want to achieve with your synth hobby. Remember, an achievement doesn't have to mean that it's achieving something measurable outside of your own life. It's not about reaching 100,000 listens on Spotify or something measurable that you can show your friends. It's something that is meaningful to you. For some of you, a valued goal could be to have 30 minutes with your synths every day, having a relaxing moment, just enjoying playing them. It doesn't have to amount to anything else, as long as it relates to something you truly value. And here's the thing, if it's hard figuring out a valued goal, you have to kind of go back. You have to look back at your life and try and find moments where you've truly felt passionate about something, where something truly mattered, and try and relate to that feeling. Like, why did this matter so much? What is it with this that makes it so important? Because as we move and grow in life, it's easy to lose sight of, because there's so many real obstacles in life, it's easy to lose sight of the things that used to mean a lot to us and why they used to mean a lot to us. When was a time where I was super motivated to do something, and why was it motivating? And try and find the real reasons why you felt motivated. So those were, I think, 7 reasons why you might be losing interest in your synth and music production hobby and what to do about it. But here's one extra thing. The state of the world as it is right now, it's been a bit of a mess for quite a long time now, I think since the pandemic. It's been rough, especially if you're spending a lot of time online, and it's hard to be creative when the world is a mess. And here I just have one piece of advice. You shouldn't just shut out what's going on. You should actively engage with the world, take responsibility for what's going on. But it's also equally important that you limit your intake of news and social media, because yeah, I know I have to. Media is meant to make us engage, and if we feel something, we click it and we keep engaging with the content. But here's the thing, we don't need these constant daily, hourly, minutely updates, notifications about how sad things are in the world right now. You should check in now and then, but limit your media intake and focus on the goals that are truly important to you. If you feel like you want to do something about the state of the world, do something. But consuming media, it's not really doing something. Sitting and commenting on Twitter isn't really doing something. So just limit things a bit and focus on the things that truly matter to you. So I hope today's video was helpful. As always, leave comments with your struggles in the comment section, because I know that together we can always help one another. And as always, have a great day. Talk to you all later.